I'd like to call the meeting of the Lammersville Unified Governing Board to order at 7:00 p.m. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. At this time, please take a moment to silence or turn off your cell phones. For those of you here that would like to address the board about a specific agenda item during public comment, please fill out a blue comment card so we know when to call upon you. I believe that we have students here from Hanson Elementary to give a presentation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, so I'll call you forward at this time.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Nicholas, audience. I'm Michelle Baptista, and I'm the principal of Hanson Elementary. I'm so excited to be here tonight to share all the great things that are happening at our school. I have some amazing ASB students here with me tonight, so I'm going to let them tell you all about what's happening at Hanson.
Hanson Elementary, home of the Tigers. We have what makes Hanson special. We have many fundraisers, fairs and fundraisers every year. We fundraise money. We either earn it ourselves or partner with other organizations. We have inclusive and educational school teams, such as sport teams with JV and varsity players, as well as educational related teams that relate with math and science. We also have many rallies and assemblies each year that bring our students and staff together and appreciate our students for their great accomplishments. Our school spirit and student connections help students display leadership, citizenship. It also creates a positive environment for students.
Fairs and fundraisers. Hanson likes to host a lot of fairs and fundraising events to encourage students to display leadership expectations and also just to have a little bit of fun. Some examples of these events could be the Apex fundraiser, which encourages students to stay active and display leadership expectations, Dippin' Dots, which are a fun treat that we sell on Friday to raise money for our ASB, Candygrams, which encourage students to buy gifts and get them back, and it also fundraises for our ASB, and Trunk or Treat, which is an activity allowing students to trick or treat at school.
Rallies and assemblies. Hanson has many rallies and assemblies that help bring our school together. This includes Sammy Circuit, Eco Hero, and Roar Expectations. Sammy Circuit is an activity where a person named Sammy comes to our school and tells us about his story. He inspires us to stay active and have positive behavior. Eco Hero encourages students to recycle and keep our planet healthy. Roar Expectations motivates students to show their positive behavior as they're rewarded for their positive behavior.
School teams and clubs. We have many school teams and clubs including sports teams and educational teams such as HOSA and Science Olympiad. These teams teach students about sportsmanship, integrity, respect, and teamwork. Recently, our JV and varsity volleyball team made it into the semifinals, and our Hanson HOSA is known worldwide.
Leadership. Our school has ASB members that work hard to represent our school. We have different committees in ASB that help make sure that all aspects of Hanson are taken care of and led by our students. We also won second place for most spirited school during a leadership event at the high school, showing that our students focus in making our school a great place to learn and have fun. We won first place for the homecoming parade, which was built by all ASB students, and it shows that we're able to work together as a team and as a school. We have many students who lead and organize school events, such as our upcoming spring dance, and we also have leaders for school teams and clubs, such as HOSA, Science Olympiad, Math Olympiad, etc. These are some activities and some pictures of activities that we have at our school. you have any questions?
Any questions by the board?
Great job, everybody. That was fantastic.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And while this meeting might be very interesting, we understand if you have homework that you need to take care of or other obligations. So if anybody would like to leave at this time, it would be a great time to be excused without any. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Item 2, roll call.
Lisa Boulay,
Here.
Colin Clements,
Here.
Benita Daniel, absent, Stephanie Olson,
Here.
David Pombo,
Here.
Student Board Member Devika Vithalani.
Here.
Item 3, approval or corrections to the agenda.
There are none.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Based on a motion by trustee Boulay and seconded by trustee Clements. Student preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes with 4 ayes, no noes, and 1 absent. Moving on to item 4, presentation from the demographer on draft trustee area maps and public hearing to gather input regarding draft trustee area maps. And we're going to have a staff report to introduce our presentation, and I'd like the public to know the process. We'll have the report, the board will ask some questions, and then we'll open it up to the public comment. And I'll read our notice about public comments before that happens at that time. Staff report?
Yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Doug Johnson, who is our demographer. This is going to be the first of 2 identical presentations in the form of board hearings. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Johnson to discuss maps.
Thank you very much. As always, a pleasure to be here. And today is different than the earlier hearings that we actually have maps to talk about. So I'll jump in a little bit first with a little review, kind of how we got here and where we're going. Briefly, we started with 2 hearings that are both recorded for folks who want to go back and see them, where we're just talking about the process and the rules and the demographics involved in this process. And then a week ago, the draft maps were posted. And this is, as you just heard, the first of 2 hearings to talk about those draft maps, get feedback. Any requests for revisions or new versions can certainly come in. And then any changes that we make we'll post as well, and that'll lead up to a community forum for those that want a more informal setting from the community to talk about these maps and ask questions and have some give and take on it. That'll be February 20th, followed by February 21st, the second required hearing to talk about the draft maps, with the maps then adopted March 6th by the board. These are what we've shown before, but to review them for those that may not have been at earlier meetings, we have federal rules and state rules on this process. The federal law is we have to have equal population, and it is equal number of people. It's not registered voters or anything like that. And key to an area like this, it is people counted in the 2020 census. So the numbers are a little dated, but by law, those are the official numbers that are used for this process. Then we need to make sure the maps comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act and the federal requirement for no racial gerrymandering, which means race cannot be the predominant factor in where a line is drawn or why a map is chosen. Then California has a set of criteria as well. They come after the federal rules, but are in priority order under state law. Districts have to be contiguous, makes sense. No one piece over here and one piece over there. Then the state law prioritizes keeping together neighborhoods and communities of interest, which is really an area that shares either socioeconomic feature or a shared interest. There's a more specific definition in the law, but that's the general idea. And then we have to respect city and census designated place boundaries, follow easily identifiable boundaries like roads, freeways, things like that that are easy for voters to understand which trustee area they're in. And then the last state requirement is after you've met all the other requirements, then you want to try to be compact, which the state defines as don't go around one group of people to get to another group of people, unless you're doing it to achieve one of the higher requirements, higher ranked requirements. California also prohibits drawing lines for the purpose of favoring or discriminating against an incumbent or a candidate or a political party. And then if you do have 2 maps that meet all these requirements equally, then you can choose between those 2 maps based on which one might accommodate future population growth better. As we talked about a little bit at the earlier hearings, that margin of accommodating future growth is only by a couple of percent. So in a jurisdiction that's growing as fast as this one is, it's not going to have any real meaningful or significant offset, but it might, you can play with it by a couple of percent within that equal population federal requirement. So those are the rules and the metrics we're using to evaluate these maps. But as you'll see, there are lots of different ways to address these various criteria. We do have 5 maps to start the process, and again, this isn't the entire realm of possible maps. What I'm really trying to do in these maps is illustrate various choices. And I've got zoomed out versions later in the PowerPoint too. But I wanted to show in detail, and you can see on the edges where these maps go. But up in the top left, starting with that one, you've got green. That really has, one of the thoughts in that map is there are 4 trustee areas that go out of Mountain House and get more rural territory. Now, up in the north, you can see the purple trustee area 4. It really is just getting the future growth area. So it's not getting a lot of rural population, but it's getting an undeveloped area. Then you can see the pink on the left has the Alameda County portion. The blue at the bottom has Tracy and most of the areas south of the freeway. Essentially everything except for the little edge on the north side of Tracy. And then 3 in the green goes out to the east. And each of those then comes in to Mountain House. And in each of these maps, as noted before, we're trying to keep the neighborhoods together or avoid dividing them as much as possible. But there are very different ways to do that. And that's why I kind of zoomed in on Mountain House for this presentation. You can see in this case we have 3 of the kind of development areas that are unsplit. Altamont, Costa, and Hanson. And then split are Wickland, Bethany, and Cordis. And as I go through these maps and talk about this, there are a couple of different things to think about. One is we can, as you'll see in some later maps, reduce the number of neighborhoods or split, but we do so by splitting one neighborhood multiple ways. And there really isn't in the law a clear definition of, is it better to split 2 neighborhoods once each, or is it better to split one neighborhood 3 times? That's not a legal definition. That's a choice that you all can weigh and the public can weigh in on too. So in this case, starting with green, we've got the 4 trustee years coming from the outside into Mountain House, and then in each of the maps, the orange seat 5 is entirely in Mountain House. And you can see in this case, it's getting this kind of the southern half, more or less below the river in Bethany, and then going over to the east as well. Next at the top is Olive. In this case, we still have the 4 seats coming into Mountain House just from different ways. For example, you can see the green, the light green seat over in the east. Instead of coming in kind of down at where are we? Cordis, it's coming in farther north. And so it's putting a different part of Mountain House together with that more rural eastern section. Of course, coming up from Tracy, there's not a lot of options in terms of where you come up into Mountain House for the blue seat coming up. So but in this case, instead of coming up on the west side of Mountain House, it's coming up on the east side of Mountain House. You can see how it comes up there with the blue. And similarly, in each of these maps, kind of where we come across into Mountain House from Alameda County, Mountain House Elementary shifts up and down in each of the maps. So it may be that people feel there isn't a big significant impact, or it may be that people feel that, for example, Mountain House to the west, Mountain House Elementary to the west, has more connection with a given neighborhood or not. That's one of the things these maps are aimed to trigger, is that those kinds of comments and feedback as you look at them. Orange is a very different map. It stands out from the rest because there are 4 seats entirely in Mountain House, and then everything outside of Mountain House is in 1 seat in the pink trustee area 1. So a very different approach. Again, each of these splits a couple of neighborhoods. This one splits Altamont once and Bethany. Those are the only 2 split, but Bethany is split among 3 trustee areas. So it's not just a single split in Bethany in that. But you can see very different impact. We still get the rural seat coming in. There's not enough people outside of Mountain House to draw a trustee area that's just outside of Mountain House. So whatever way that's drawn, it is going to come into Mountain House in some way. Violet in the bottom left. This one has 3 that are coming in, and the big change really from the olive map above is that the undeveloped northern part of Mountain House goes with the eastern, more rural area in the green, just Area 3. Otherwise, that Area 3 is the same in both maps, and you get very similar impacts. Although this is an illustration of how you can shift things around. So if you compare olive and violet, you can see the blue and green are essentially the same, except for that undeveloped, largely unpopulated area on the north side of town. But you can see Area 1 in pink is coming across into Mountain House in a very different area. 1 and 5 really flip, which picks up. So the idea is to hopefully trigger feedback from the neighborhood and residents on which of those makes more sense. And then the yellow map is kind of in between all the others. It has 2 seats outside of Mountain House. You can see the purple Area 4 is to the north and the west. North and the east. And then everything in Alameda County and everything below the freeway is in Area 1, the pink seat that then comes in. All these maps have, by the citizen voting age population data that we've talked about is significantly out of date, but all these maps have at least 1 seat that's majority Asian American. Yellow has 2. I'm willing to bet that by more recent numbers, they would all probably have 2. But by the numbers we have available, yellow is the only one that has 2. The rest all have 1. And each of them, there was no way to keep all the Mountain House neighborhoods intact. I tried. I was looking at that a lot. But every one of these maps splits at least 1. Yellow splits the fewest. It splits only Wickland, but it does split Wickland 3 ways. So you can see in that area where it is a significant split. So that's the kind of feedback we're looking for is, which of those approaches makes the most sense? Fewer neighborhoods split, or it's okay to have more split if they're less majorly split. So that's a quick spin through, and I like this because you can see the different maps and compare them just by glancing at each one. But we do have each map in more detail, where in this case now you can see the zoomed out, the whole district. So you can see green has just the Alameda County portion in 1, and then the portion of Mountain House. You can see 2 it's Tracy, and then everything up to the freeway. And then coming up in Mountain House and so forth, as I talked about before. But this is a little bit more detail. Olive, very similar in terms of 1 and 2, but a different approach with 3 and 5. And then orange, right away you can visually see the difference. We have 1 seat taking in all the rural Tracy and unincorporated areas, and then Mountain House has the 4 seats entirely in Mountain House. And then violet, this is the one that gets 3 seats that are rural areas instead of 4 in the other maps, or 1 in the orange map. And so you're getting a different take there. And then yellow, where it's Alameda County and then south of the freeway again in 1. And then all the other rural and the northern undeveloped area in 4. And then the 3 seats that are entirely in Mountain House. The other piece of this, and this usually comes into play later in the process, but we do want to flag it since it's on the website and we have figured this out. I mentioned early on the new law that just kicked in January 1st is no maps can't be drawn for the purpose of favoring or discriminating against an incumbent or potential candidate. I actually don't know where the board members live when I drew these maps, and so I handed the draft maps off to district and legal counsel, and they then figured out which seats would be up in which years. So you can see it's pretty straightforward for 4 of the maps. Green, it's clear which seats would be up in which years. Olive, violet, and yellow, it's pretty straightforward. If the orange map ends up being the map chosen, because there are multiple board members who are in the same seat in different election years, then we run into these choices. And that's what's driving those choices is there's a board member whose term is up in 2024, and a board member whose term is up in 2026 in the same seat. Now, again, I don't know which seat or which board members, but that's where the district staff have worked with legal counsel to come up with the scenarios for you. So don't really have to deal much with this other than knowing from this list which seats would be up in which years, unless you end up choosing the orange map, and then we'd have to go in and pick one of these scenarios. So I do want to note, as you've seen mentioned on these slides, there is the interactive review map. That is linked on the district's website. That's a map where you can zoom in and out. You can enter your address and see all the details. And so what's maybe hard to see in a PowerPoint slide or in a PDF printout, we can answer questions about the details, and residents are free to look at that site themselves and really zoom in and see exactly where those lines are going in each map. But that is my presentation. Today, we're not looking to choose a map. If you do want to narrow the list down or in some indication of which are the preferred maps to focus on as we go to the community forum, you can do that. Now, I do want to emphasize nothing is final. I would say nothing's final until it's all final. So even if we narrow it down, if at the community forum we hear a lot of feedback for one of the other maps, it can certainly come back. But narrowing it down can help residents know which maps they should really look at in detail to give you more feedback at the next hearing as well. And of course, you can ask for changes or new maps, and we're happy to draw and provide those. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions you may have now or after the hearing.
I have one, well, I have more than one concern. I will mention one concern that I have on the maps, and that is that the areas on any of the maps, the areas that have the most growth, in some cases, also have the biggest number to begin with. And it was my understanding that the maps will be drawn such that an area that had clear future growth, clear imminent future growth, would be underpopulated by the amount allowable by law to make up for that. And that doesn't seem to be the case in at least some of the maps.
Yeah, at this point, I'm really focusing on more on showing the different scenarios. And one thing we can zoom in on and look at is in Mountain House, it gets really hard to make kind of logical lines that don't split on side streets kind of thing. So I was much more focused on that. But as we narrow the maps down, we can certainly fine tune and say, hey, maybe we move this line over one more block so that the north is underpopulated and the seat next to it is not. It's certainly something we can look at. It is the kind of an unofficial consideration. So I want to get the feedback on the first ones first, but certainly it's something we could fine tune at the end.
All right. Thank you.
Trustee Clemens, do you have anything?
Yeah, a couple of questions, which are just to make sure that I understand the maps and what they mean. Looking at all the maps, there's only one map wherein the Hispanic community has a plurality, and that would be the yellow map. Did I interpret that correctly?
Under the citizen voting age population data that we have currently,
Right.
there
That's
is
all we have.
Well, true, but we do have the census data as well, so the 2020 census data. So yes, the citizen voting age population data that we have does show the Latinos are the largest, not a majority, but the largest group by about 1% in the yellow map in Area 5. Keep in mind, though, the 2020 census data shows that Asian Americans are about 40% in that seat, and Latinos are only 16. And so we're kind of logically know that Latinos aren't really a plurality there. But under the data we have, that is the one that has a Latino plurality.
Well, thanks. That's why I asked the question.
Yep.
And then yellow is the only map where the Asian and Pacific Islanders have two majorities, or majority in two, according to this particular data, right?
Yes, yes. I should note, too, normally this data comes out every March. That's the data that we're using. The Bureau actually came out early, so it came out last week with new data. So it takes us a couple weeks to process it, but we may have that updated data. Normally it doesn't change very much, and so we don't worry about changing data mid-project because that can be confusing. But given the concerns about how old that data is, we're rushing to try to get those numbers. So by your next hearing, it's likely we'll have updated numbers as well. So we may see two seats and more maps by then.
Okay. And as I understand it, like it's an obvious truism. You can't have 5 areas with more than 5 villages and not split villages. it's going to happen, right?
In this case, yes, there's no way to avoid. Sometimes you get really lucky and the numbers fall into place perfectly, but in this case, they do not.
So what we're looking for input from the community on is about whether the feeling is that it's better to split a fewer number of villages, but split them more, or split, more villages, but split them, less, carve them up less, is one of the things that we're looking for input from the community on.
Correct. And one thing I want to note too, this is great, we have so many parents here, their families here. Split has a negative connotation. Many times actually communities like having two board members that answer to their neighborhood. So that's one of the things that we'll be interested to hear from when weighing this is like when I talk about Wickland being split 3 ways, well that, in the yellow map, well that reduces Wickland's voting strength in each of those 3 seats and divide it, but it also gives them a chance of electing 3 board members from Wickland, because they have those pieces of 3 seats. So there is a trade-off. So that is one of the things we'd love to hear from residents is which way do they prefer in that.
Exactly. I wasn't trying to imply that there was a positive or a negative, just that there's a difference, and we'd like to hear their viewpoint on it.
Yep. Yeah, and split is a word I use too. I'm not saying.
Trustee Bell, do you have anything? I just have one request. Looking at the yellow map, the rural areas are divided, and I kind of see the rural area as one community of interest. And would like for there to be another map to consider, maybe that would be able to group that community of interest more together as an option for the public to consider.
Mm-hmm. We can certainly do that. Similar to, we see the different configuration between Olive and Violet in Mountain House with the rural similar. We could do a different configuration in Mountain House with all the rural united, certainly.
Thank you. Anything further from the board? So we're going to move to the community input part, and I know I have at least one card. Could I get some clarification? Ms. Ahmad, are you speaking to this item? Or okay, just wanted to make sure because it wasn't on the card. So the entire board appreciates hearing from members of the community and public at large. To facilitate this, the board gives members of the public an opportunity to address the board either before or during the board's consideration of each agenda item, Government Code Section 54954.3. At a time so designated on the agenda, members of the public also may bring before the board members that are not listed on the agenda of a regular meeting. The board may refer such a matter to the superintendent or designee or take it under advisement, but shall not take action at that time. The board may place the matter on the agenda of a subsequent meeting for discussion or action. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board shall limit total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. And I have 2 speaker cards, and I'll go in order that I received them. So Ms. Lindsay Ahmad.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Ahmad, as you know. I am a parent of a student at Lammersville School. I am here tonight to express my strong opinion about supporting the orange map. Lammersville absolutely belongs with other rural schools and areas that reflect what Lammersville is. Lammersville is a rural school, a very small school, and it has a lot of history. Lammersville's community of interest needs to stay with other schools that reflect the rural feel and are like-minded. Staying connected to other rural areas is important to preserve what Lammersville School is. Our school does not belong lumped up with all the urban area Mountain House has to offer. I hope you take what I have stated tonight into consideration. Lammersville is the oldest school, after all, in this entire area, and it should be treated as such. If other maps are considered, my hope is that you would put Lammersville with other rural areas. Thank you all.
Thank you. On the behalf of the entire board, we thank you for your comment. And I have also Mr. Scott Rafferty.
Amen to that. I think not only does Lammersville belong with the other rural areas, but there need to be 4 entire trustee areas in the incoming city of Mountain House. The integrity of the city is the highest criteria among communities of interest, and the only other community of interest that you can discern is really the neighborhoods. And as Dr. Johnson pointed out, they're not equal fourths. So they need to be split. One way to split them, obvious way, is the creek. It does split Bethany. But the other factor that you want to look at, since there's a lot of economic homogeneity, you want to look at turnout, you want to look at vintage of homes, and citizenship rates. And I think all 3 of those are very closely correlated because there are areas within neighborhoods, and particularly in the southern part of the city, where you have newer vintage homes with more people who are not yet citizens, and newer, and I think that those are going to be lower turnout, lower participation areas, and they should be protected from the other participation areas. But splitting is not just a negative; it's really you need to respect the integrity of communities of interest to the maximum extent possible. And yes, there are these issues of where you have to split, and you do, because you have to have some semblance of equal population. But there shouldn't be deliberate splitting. And when I looked at these maps, and they're hard for the audience to see because they're so small. I mean, there needs to be, generally you have multiple copies of maps that people can really examine. There certainly needs to be an agenda packet here with at least one copy of the presentation for the public. But I think there needs to be more focus on how we should split neighborhoods, they define neighborhoods in a way that provide you a little bit better building blocks. But definitely there should be 4. Mountain House is more than 80% of the population. It should have 4 entire districts in it, and they should follow neighborhoods to the maximum extent possible, which is not absolute, obviously. So I hope that in future meetings there's more, and that there's an opportunity perhaps to get input on the website. People are very uncomfortable. I've heard from several of them about appearing in public hearings and saying things because they are concerned about how that affects their children and so on. And so to have a more anonymous, or at least to have exchanges of communications on the website, I think would really help you make better decisions. So I hope future meetings are you get more input, but I think it's important to reach out and to enable a dialogue as well. Thank you.
On behalf of the Town Board, we thank you for your comment. I don't have any other blue cards. Is there any other member of the public that would like to speak to this matter before we move along?
Good evening. My name is Samik Modi. 2 comments, I guess. One is, if it was, my view, I think, would be to try to keep the north of Byron connected probably with Cuesta. I think the maps where they wrap around and connect College Park with north of Byron seem a little bit obscure in terms of if you had a candidate campaigning for a certain area that are going, basically north and south part of towns. The second piece would be, so the orange map seems to indicate that. I don't know if there's a way to modify that a little bit to potentially address the other woman's comment, but also keep the north of Byron connected with Cuesta. The other comment that I would make is it could be helpful to see some analysis of if you excluded the areas that would not be part of Mountain House as a city, what would those numbers look like with these maps? And is there a way, and I know it's not the school district's board's responsibility to take, the future city and all that into account. But I think what could be confusing in the future is if both districts for the city as well as the school district have 2 completely different boundaries, it's just going to confuse all the residents of who they're voting for and who represents what areas, right? So if there was a way where you could see some analysis where, look, for the school district, which obviously covers more land area, it could fit in this way, but if you chopped off at Great Valley or whatever and it still worked to meet the needs of what the city could do, that could be helpful as well. But thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other members that wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, we will move on to item 4, committee reports. Item A, District Advisory Committee, Trustee Boulay.
Nothing to report.
Item B, District English Language Advisory Committee, Trustee Boulay.
Thank you. The District English Learner Advisory Committee met on January 25th. Director Ben Faubert led the meeting. He talked about the summative LPAC, which is an assessment that measures the progress of our English learners throughout the year. And that assessment started February 1st and will be conducted through the end of the school year. He also talked about the local control accountability plan, reviewed the purpose and function of the plan, the state priorities, and the goal for our district. He talked about the CASP testing results, and in just a broad overview, he included some of the subgroups and compared how we are doing to other districts. And finally, he talked about the California Voting Rights Act and gave us an updated review on the progress of CVRA to this point. Our next DLAC committee meeting will be on April 18th. That'll be in the Professional Development Center at 6:30, and it'll also be combined with the Education Extracurricular Committee meeting. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Education Committee, Trustee Pombo.
Nothing to report.
Facilities Committee. The Facilities Committee met on Thursday, February 1st, and we will be bringing some items for the board to take action on in the next several board agendas. And we also reviewed the CVRA with the community members present. Item E, Policy Committee, Trustee Clements.
I'll take that one. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I read the wrong name.
That's okay.
Trustee
That's okay. So we are in the process of reviewing our current batch of policies. We should be done with our review by this Friday, February 9th, and the first read will come to the board at our next meeting on February 21st.
And if I was going to report in on policy, that's what I'd say.
Item F, Safety Committee, Trustee Pombo.
Yes, the subcommittee of the Safety Committee met to discuss the upcoming safety drill at Mountain House High School. Our next subcommittee meeting will be on the 16th of February at 2:30 at Mountain House High School. And the next dress code subcommittee meeting is scheduled for February 13th at 3:30, also at Mountain House High School. Concludes my report.
Thank you. Item G, Wellness Committee. The next Wellness Committee meeting is February 14th at 3:45 p.m. at the Professional Development Center. Moving on to item 6, Governing Board Reports. Student Trustee Vizolani.
Good evening, esteemed board members. So I would like to start my updates from Mountain House High School. And starting with clubs, we have a club at school called the Wellness Forum Club. And the previous meeting, I kind of went over what their plans were for Kindness Week. And recently, they were able to execute these plans. So they had several different activities planned, such as sticky notes on all of the PE lockers to encourage all of the high school students. And on Friday, they had hot chocolate in the quad, which was, of course, a huge hit. Everyone was able to drink their delicious hot chocolate in the cold weather and make great memories. Mountain House High School's robotics team recently competed at their first all-member VEX robotics competition in Milpitas. And of the 5 teams that they have, Team A won all 7 of their matches, becoming one of the 4 teams in the entire 60-team tournament to do so. Team A was ranked first overall for offensive power and contribution ratings, and they will be going to more competitions in the following month in hope to qualify for states, and we wish them the best of luck. For Interact Rotary Club, they recently held their Rotary District Speech Contest on January 29th, and the winners of the club level are Tessa, who placed first. I was fortunate enough to place second, and our club president, Ashley, placed third. And our club contest honorable mention was Kriti, and we wish them the best of luck as they compete at the district level. For speech and debate, they have their upcoming YFL this weekend, February 10th, and they have been preparing hard, and I personally cannot wait to compete. And Mountain House High School's DECA chapter has received recognition as one of the 4 DECA chapters high schools in California to receive gold status for CBE Student Store Enterprise. This is a very huge accomplishment as it is something we have never achieved before, and the recognition, of course, goes to Ms. Cadwell and the CBE store managers for prepping comprehensive documentations regarding the store's growth and achievements. And by achieving this gold status, the chapter will be able to take 2 students to the international competition in April. And it is truly a proud moment and a tremendous accomplishment for our DECRA chapter. For ASB updates, I would like to highlight the success of the Snow Coming Games, the rally that we had recently, and Winter Formal. Everyone enjoyed the rally, and it was pretty unique as this time our target was keeping the students engaged. We had many different games. My personal favorite was the archery game, and we also had a teacher's court. So we were able to get the students and teachers both involved during the rally. On January 29th, the leadership class was able to visit San Ramon Valley High School, and we were able to meet with a lot of different high schools. It was a great experience. We learned a lot of different things, and we cannot wait to apply it as we go on. Academic breakfast was recently held to honor the department winners. And lastly, for ASB, we have elections that are coming up. We have positions for ASB president, vice president, secretary, treasurers, and multiple different commissioners. And of course, the class officers for each grade and district board representative, which I am proud to announce I will be running again next year. Moving on to sporting updates, we've had several basketball and wrestling events. So from the 1st through 2nd, we had games against Pacheco. On February 3rd, we had girls basketball games at Lathrop. And we've had playoff games for boys soccer and girls basketball against Lathrop and Ceres. We've also had senior nights for girls and boys basketball and dance, and we were able to see a lot of great pictures and support out there with multiple different posters and family members joining them. For additional high school updates, the Mountain House High School Cyber Tech team won first in overall robot competition to receive the Motivate Award at the First Tech Challenge for the 2023 to 2024 NorCal Fresno qualifier. As they move on to states, we hope for the best for them. The team consists of 13 members, and their lead captains are Adit Rajnikant and Aditya Vaswani, and outreach captain Kushi Kolte, and their mechanical captain Amog. And they all look forward to expanding their knowledge to the middle school level to create more awareness for STEM. And recently, I was able to attend the DPAC meeting, which was held on January 30th at 6:30. Not only allowing me to meet with a student there, but also the parents to learn more regarding the student progress from a parent's perspective. As election dates are coming up, students were recruited to help out as election poll workers, and they have upcoming trainings to help them be successful. We also had the drama production, the prom, take place recently on Feb 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and they did a great job, and there was lots of great feedback. And lastly, discussing the topic of the middle and elementary schools, we've been meeting up quite recently, and we've had just amazing conversations about what they're doing and how they can improve. I was able to give them a little insight on what high school leadership would look like, and they were asking questions, so it was just a great session. But all middle schools have multiple basketball games, and which will lead up to the championship game, of course. And all schools have Read Across America and multiple events and sales for Valentine's Day grams. They also have the end of their semester approaching on February 23rd. So Altamont recently had a dodgeball tournament for 3rd through 8th graders on February 2nd, and the proceeds raised went to the Altamont Junior High music program. And I was able to witness this through my room's window, and it was just really fun seeing all of the elementary students compete in this really fun sport. And moving on to Bethany, they have their Kindness Week with lots of fun spirit days and kindness gram sales. They have their science fair tonight, and for their semester ending, they're celebrating in a really unique way. So they have a school-wide rock, paper, scissors challenge. And it's basically the whole Friday, they all get necklaces, and they go around and they play rock, paper, scissors with every student that they see. And the winner basically gets to keep the necklace, and of course, at the end of the day, the student with the most necklaces win. So I just thought this was really unique, and a lot of schools will be taking inspiration from this. Costa has had their DARE graduation on February 5th, and for Kindness Week, they have a cultural day, which was highlighted by their president. For Lammersville, of course, they have their Kindness Week with gram sales. And lastly, Cuesta, they have their Pioneer field trip dates, which are coming up. And they have March Madness, where different grade levels will compete with Spirit Days. And they will also be doing a rock, paper, scissors competition, but theirs will be held during lunch. And they all also have rallies, which work similar to the high school, which is pretty new. And that concludes my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Boulay.
Thank you. On January 23rd, I did a site visit at Hanson. I had a great tour with Mrs. Baptista, and one of the things I like about the site visits is we get to see in action the decisions that we make up here on the dais. So it's really fun to see that full circle. And the kids that presented this evening talked about Sammy Circuit a little bit, and I was able to see one of the Sammy Circuit's activities. On January 25th, I attended the DLAC meeting, as I reported earlier. On the 29th, I attended the special board meeting, which was one of the hearings for CVRA. On the 30th, I went to the girls' basketball games. I saw both the JV and the varsity game. And it was also senior night for our varsity girls, so it was just a festive event, and they won the game quite easily, so it was a nice celebration. A bonus was that our high school cheerleaders were cheering for the JV game, so I got to see our cheerleaders perform as well. On the 31st, I went to the assembly at Cuesta that was talked about the dangers of fentanyl and other opioids, that was geared to our 7th and 8th grade students. And really, I saw the one at the high school, and it was just a very moving assembly. And I do think that it's important for our kids to hear the message, again, not just in 5th grade in the DARE program, but multiple times throughout their school year, hopefully to learn lessons that'll last a lifetime. On February 3rd, I did attend the prom performance, the play at the high school, and it was just phenomenal. It was so fun, and the kids, they did a great job with that. From the actors to the support personnel, they did a fabulous job. On February 5th, which was Monday, I attended the DARE graduation at Costa, and earlier this evening, I attended the DARE graduation at Lammersville. And I just want to give a shout out to Officer Abercrombie, who has been doing these DARE programs for our district for many, many years. This is his last year doing it for the department, but he's doing a fabulous job, and he just has a way of connecting with the kids and hopefully, again, giving them a message that will last a lifetime to be drug and alcohol free. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Clements.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I was unable to make the DLAC meeting, and for that I apologize, the one that was just held in late January. I did attend the special meeting on CVRA last week with most of my peers on the board. I did visit Cuesta Elementary as well, and it was a brief visit, but thanks to the staff for allowing me to be there for a few minutes. And on, I'll take a couple minutes, and I would remind obviously the district and the board wants comments on CVRA, and you can email the would those go to the superintendent?
There's a link on the website and a special identified email address on the link.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So go to the website. If you don't want to speak publicly, there is a vehicle on the website for you to be able to provide your comments. We do want to hear about the community's thoughts. And then I was going to ask if there was a link on the CVA portion of the website. There is. That's it. That's the end of my comments, Madam President.
Thank you, Trustee Clements. Trustee Pombo.
Thank you, Madam President. On January 19th, I attended the aforementioned safety drill planning meeting. On the 23rd, I attended the LUSD Special Ed Child Behavior Program for Parents. On January 25th, I attended the Mountain House High School Department Awards. Very impressive. We have a lot of impressive students at our high school, I'm proud to say. On January 26th, I went to the LUSD music program, which was the K-8 kids. It was a district-wide program at Mountain House High School. Very impressive. It bodes well for the future of our music program at Mountain House High School. Also on the 29th, I went to CSBA Capital Advisors budget workshop in Stockton that was hosted by the San Joaquin County Office of Education, and it was interesting. It's wasn't as much good news as I hoped for, but it was better news than I feared, so that was good. On January 31st, I also attended the Fentanyl Assembly at Cuesta, and I agree with Trustee Boulay. I think it's important that our kids get information about that poison because it's everywhere, and our students as well as everyone else needs to be aware of it. On February 1st, I attended the Facilities Committee meeting. On the 3rd, I attended the prom, the play at the high school, and I too was impressed with the actors, the ancillary staff, and everyone that had anything to do with it. It was a very, very nice program. Also on the 5th, I attended the DARE graduation at Evelyn Costa Elementary, and once again, that is a very good program. I enjoy seeing how enthusiastic the students are. And then earlier tonight, I attended the DARE graduation at Lammersville Elementary, and it was enjoyable as well. The enthusiasm of the kids always uplifts my spirit. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. I'd like to start off my report giving a shout out to, I'm not sure exactly who deserves it, but I want the message to get out there that I ordered Valentine grams for the first time online as a parent who never has cash. I don't know if that's credit to IT, but I want credit to be given where that idea came from, because I think that is wonderful for parents who their little child says, Mom, I want to order Valentine grams for my friends. Can you give me some cash? I don't have cash, and I'm looking up to see when is this? When do I have to have cash by? And then I see, oh, you can order online, and so I thought that was really great. On Friday, January 26th, I attended the middle school honor choir band orchestra concert. And as Trustee Pombo said, it was a wonderful concert. The students got together from all of the K-8 middle schools and practiced for like 2 days and learned all those songs that they performed beautifully. And our as I stated in a previous board report, when I went to the county honor band choir orchestra performances, Mountain House had so many of like the first chair, the concertmaster violin, like top honors, that I think our future is like set with the great music program we've started. It's wonderful to see so many students. On January 29th, I attended this special board meeting with my fellow trustees. From the pool side of Mountain House High, I caught the girls' soccer and boys' soccer games, and they were very exciting. And I'm really proud of our girls' soccer team for winning the league for the first time in school history. I think that's a really great thing for our school. Just another sports feat that Mountain House just keeps getting. On February 5th, I attended the Costa DARE graduation, and as my other trustees have said, I always get choked up when the adults stand up and pledge back to the students that they're there to support them, to help them live a drug and alcohol-free life. And when I say that pledge, when I raise my right hand, I sincerely mean that for our students. And I'm so grateful for the program and what Officer Abercrombie has given to us. And I believe, Dr. Nicholas, you correct me if I'm wrong, but Deputy Garcia is going to be leading that program?
That's not a definitive answer on yes. There were discussions about how the program is going to be supported moving forward.
Yeah, 'cause I absolutely love the program and hope that, you know, we can clone Officer Abercrombie somehow with the spirit of what he's done. And that concludes my report. Moving on to item 7, receiving of public comments. And I've already read the board would like to give the public opportunity to speak, and that we have 3 minutes, and we have 2 cards. And I'd just like to point out also that when you come up to the dais, that you'll note that there are yellow, green, and red lights, and when the light turns yellow, that means that time is running out. So we'll call up Asif Alvi first.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, board, for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. My name is Asif, and I'm a parent of a 7th grader in Altamont Elementary. And I'm here with several other concerned parents to talk about a very disturbing hate speech instance that happened in the Altamont Elementary MPR sometime late last week, where a hate symbol was drawn on the mirror along with the text saying "Kill all Muslims." As you can understand, it's very disturbing for all of us, and this incident was brought to the principal's attention on Monday morning. There was no communication sent to the parents, nor the children were spoken to about the incidents for more than 3 days. Only after a worried group of parents approached the principal today, had a meeting with her, and then an email was sent just a little while ago, earlier today. Even though this is clearly a hate crime, no law enforcement agency has been involved so far. Moreover, the writing was immediately erased without any due process being followed, and unfortunately removing any evidence that could have been crucial in getting to the bottom of this matter. As you can understand, we are all very concerned. The kids are not feeling safe going to the school. They are having all kinds of questions that we have to address. And we are getting an impression that this matter is not being treated, given its due diligence, and is being treated very lightly, like any other innocent graffiti incidents, which it clearly is not. So we are requesting that the following action items be taken immediately to get a closure on this issue and to prevent future said incidents against any community. We are requesting that an anonymous tip line be provided at every school at the Lammersville district level, where the students can text or call if they know or see anything that they can anonymously report without any fear or apprehension. I understand there is a link on the website currently that they can go, but I'm not sure how many kids are aware of it. Plus, I think it's an additional burden, additional step for them to go and do all that. You can have that, but also having a text or a phone line would be, I think, a bit more easier for the kids to report anything. Every principal in the district should address the hate speech issue in the school assembly, as well as each class teacher should do the same in their respective classes. We should engage appropriate agencies to perform a thorough investigation, and I would request the safety committee to take that, and then to bring a very swift and quick closure to this, to do a thorough investigation, so that not only this incident is given its due consideration, but also future such incidents do not happen, hopefully with a much severe repercussion. And then lastly, to request you to provide regular updates to the parents on this. Thank you for your time.
On behalf of the entire board, we thank you for your comment. And Dr. Nicholas, I'm sure we'll have staff reach out. Thank you. Samik Modi.
Good evening. On Monday, January 29th, my 6-year-old son was punched several times and had his finger bent backwards by another student in the boys' bathroom at his school. He informed his teacher, who then informed the school admin staff immediately. Notably, though, my son did not come home and immediately tell us about what happened. Rather, he nonchalantly brought it up several hours later at dinner. We were not made aware of the incident by the school. It is this point that we take issue with and are here to speak about. As we emailed back and forth with the school principal and vice principal, it became clear that there is no policy regarding this. We were told, quote, Typically, parents are not contacted by admin unless the student was involved in wrongdoing and consequences are going to be given. If a student is hurt and is treated by the nurse will reach out to the parents, end quote. Not happy with this, I asked, how can I work with the school on changing this standard? I was told, quote, there is no set district or school policy in place in regards to contacting families in matters like this one. We use what we believe to be best practices in these situations, end quote. Well, if best practice is to not inform parents when their student is punched at school, we've got a problem. I hope each of you agree that when a student is hit by another student, the parents of the victim should be proactively notified of the situation. Full stop. It should not matter if they are injured or if they go to the school nurse. As all of you know, children do not communicate everything that happens at school. Parents, though, if notified, could watch for any developing symptoms like a concussion or bruises. But more nefariously, imagine an older child who decides not to tell their parents, gather their friends up, and then retaliate at school because the parents had no chance to intervene. My son is fine, and it doesn't seem to be an ongoing issue, and I'm not asking for help in that regard. I do ask that the board ask the superintendent and staff to review the lack of policy or standard practice and draft a proposed policy for board consideration. We send our children to school expecting them to be safe. And while not every single issue can be prevented by the school, the district, or even this board, communicating with parents is something that can be controlled, and here's an opportunity to ensure it is done more effectively. Thank you.
On behalf of the entire board, we thank you for your comment. Moving on to item 8, consent items for consideration. Item A, Governing Board meeting minutes of the regular meeting held January 17th, 2023. Item B, contracts under $50,000. And those are Stanislaus County Office of Education, $20,000 for mandated hearing screening for the 2023-2024 school year. Byland Clinic, contract for a comprehensive independent education evaluation for a student per the student's individualized education program for the 2023-2024 school year, $6,000. And Key Analytics, California Financial Services, contract for a developer fee justification study funded through developer fees, $8,500. Item C, ratification of certificated and classified personnel actions. And item D, updated 2023-2024 fundraisers. Does any board member wish to poll or discuss a particular consent item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve consent items.
Second.
Based on a motion by trustee Boulay and seconded by trustee Clements, student preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes with 4 ayes, no noes, and 1 absent. Trustee Boulay, as board clerk, will you please do the honors?
Thank you. I'd like to welcome the following new employees to Lammersville Unified School District. Priyanka Agarwal, Instructional Aide. Ray Creer, Custodian 2. Somiya Narayami Nararajan, ELAP Instructional Aide. Nuvarna Katakala, Special Education Instructional Aide. Sri Lakshmi Kakera, Special Education Instructional Aide. Paratissa Matafa, Special Education Instructional Aide. Maria Nieto, Noon Duty Supervisor. And Yin Povis, Elementary School K-8 Custodian. I truly apologize if I mispronounced any names, but we would love to welcome you to the Lammersville family.
Moving on to item.
As a point of clarification, Madam President, I'm sorry, after the public comment, it's obvious to us because we live this every day, but any response that the district would have to those 2 items would be a matter of district business. And because it's not agendized, the board can't interact and propose or say we should do something because the rest of the public has the right to be here if and when, they have the right to be notified if and when we're going to talk about it and be here to have their voice heard. So it's not that we are not listening or hearing. It's that we are not allowed to respond. But believe me when I tell you, we heard the public comment. I'm sorry, I just had to say that.
Thank you, Trustee Clements. Item 9, District Administrative Reports. Item A, Superintendent's Report.
Yeah, we have a short presentation on ELOP, but first I wanted to, we had some good results at the 43rd Annual San Joaquin County Office of Education supported academic decathlon. Students from 13 high schools competed recently on December 7th through virtual essays and other in-person presentations. Each 9-member team consists of 3 students that fall into 3 academic categories based on grade point average. 3.75 to 4.0 is called honors. Scholastics is 3.0 to 3.74. And varsity is 0 to 2.99. We had 2 students who did exceptionally well, and we wanted to congratulate Jordan Priwira from Mountain House High School, who received a $500,000. No, I'm sorry. Let me correct the record here. We're all going to a small business loan with him. $500 from the Walter Rothaus Awards from their foundation. And also in Division II in the honors category, we took first and second place. Jordan in first place and Alan Zhang from Mountain House High School in second. He earned Jordan an additional $250 and Alan $100. So congratulations to our Mustangs who performed exceptionally at the academic decathlon. Second of all, I'm going to have Assistant Superintendent Sharp come up here and give a presentation. The state came up with a new program. It's called ELOP, and the intention was to assist families before and after school with particular demographic status to have access to schools for a longer period of day and particular types of activities. And then with it, they gave, there was a very long set of policies, and a lot of it was vague and a lot of it didn't come with expectations. In our best efforts, we rolled out the program with a big idea and probably rolled out too big of a promise without having all of the prerequisite things perfectly aligned. And so we learned some lessons at the beginning. But over the course of the year, the program kind of whittled down to something manageable. What we learned is there's a certain number of students we're going to be able to support. And the reason for that mostly is because aides are the #1 staff members, and we have to get a cadre of aides that are professional and trained and can handle the kids. And so over the course of the year, we've observed what worked, what didn't work, how we communicated, and how we wanted to approach it moving forward. So Assistant Superintendent Sharp is going to give an overall presentation and then kind of present our plans as we move into the summer and next year.
Good evening, President Olson, trustees, Dr. Nicholas. Thank you for having me this evening. As Dr. Nicholas said, I'm going to give a brief overview of ELOP program and our phases we have for rolling out summer and 24-25 ELOP. So a reminder, the purpose of ELOP is expanded learning before school, after school, summer, or intersession learning programs with a focus on academic, social, emotional, and physical needs in the interests of pupils through hands-on engaging learning experiences. Program components, we are required to have the academic part of English, math, science, arts. We do that through music, dance, art, and drama. We are required to have some sort of physical activity as well as nutrition and STEM activities. And over to the right, you can see pictures of actual activities taking place during our ELOP program this year. Our enrollment focus, it's unduplicated students TK through 6th grade. The ELOP program focuses on underrepresented groups getting opportunities to grow in their knowledge and understanding of 21st century education as it relates to enrichment and program opportunities presented in the ELOP program. The LEA entitlement amounts are based on the number of unduplicated pupils that are enrolled, and these pupils should receive priority. Our current unduplicated student population, TK6, is 970 students in Lammersville. Some logistics for the program. When we look at our staffing, we do have a current pool of ELOP aides and new hires. We are required to maintain ratios in TK and K of 10 students to 1 adult, and in 1st through 6th grade, 20 students to 1 adult. We also are hiring nurses for the summer school program. Locations, in summer, we'll have some combined sites. Tentative, we're looking at a Cuesta-Altamont combination, a Bethany-Wickland, and then combining Hanson, Cordes, Costa, and Lammersville. During the school year, it will be located at all school sites. Our funding is an ongoing apportionment from the state for ELOP. Our funding from 23-24 was over 1.5, just slightly over 1.5 million, and we're expected to stay the same funding for 24-25. So our registration plan for 24-25 is a 3-phase plan. Our first phase, as required, goes to our unduplicated first. So we'll offer to unduplicated, then we will offer to low-performing students, and it'll be 2 series of low-performing, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. In phase 2, we will look at siblings of our low-performing students and offer spots to them. And with available spots still present, phase 3, we will look at a general student lottery enrollment window. So a little bit more information on what those phases look like. In phase 1, our first, you'll see round 1. We're anticipating sending out these letters around February 9th. This will go to all unduplicated students that I spoke of, TK, 5th grade, and that's 920 students. Round 2 will be 2 weeks after that. We will include our low-performing student outreach and resend to our unduplicated. So that will be giving our unduplicated population a second invite. And then our round 3, 2 weeks later, will go to students approaching standard, so still below standard, and again, resending to unduplicated. So within 6 weeks, our unduplicated population will have received 3 invitations to ELOP. After that phase is complete, with space still available, we will look at siblings of our low-performing and approaching students to give those siblings opportunities to be in the program as well. Round 1 will go to siblings of our low-performing students, and then round 2 will go to siblings of our approaching standard students. With space available, we will go to phase 3, which would be a general student lottery. Our first round in the general student lottery would be TK through 2nd grade. After that round, we would offer to the siblings of those TK to 2nd grade students. Round 3, lottery for 3rd through 6th grade students. And again, the siblings of those 3rd through 6th grade students. Now, as I talk about these phases, and I'm going to go to this next, again, explaining this in a flow chart now. We are keeping a small amount of openings, knowing that we will have families coming in, unduplicated students coming in over the time of when we've already started the enrollment process. So there will be a pocket of enrollment we will keep open. This is a breakdown of what I said, looking at the top, round 1, offering to unduplicated students. If space is available, we go to round 2, low performing. If space is still available, we go to round 3, approaching standards. If space is available, we move to phase 2. Here at the top is the round 1 of phase 2. We're going for siblings of low performing. If space is available, we go to the siblings of approaching students. With pending space available, we continue to phase 3, which again is our TK through 2nd grade student lottery. With space available, we would offer to the siblings of our TK through 2nd graders. Additional space available, we will go to general education 3rd through 6th, and then their siblings. Looking at our enrollment history. So this year, 23-24 in the summer, we had, you can see over on the left-hand side now, 118 unduplicated students, and that represented about 13% of our total unduplicated population. We had 413 general students. So you can see the makeup of our summer was a little bit over 500 at the beginning of the summer school session. During the school year, we had 214 unduplicated students, which was about 23% of our total unduplicated population, with the remaining 286 general students, and that was just out of all general students who wanted in, got in. So when we're making our estimate, what are we looking at for enrollment for this year? If we look at summer and we say we're estimating 25% of our total unduplicated, which is almost double what we had last year, we would have 230 seats available for unduplicated students, still have 190 seats available for low performing and near standard students. For the 24-25 school year, again, looking at this year, we had 23% of our unduplicated population attend. If we estimated 35% of our total unduplicated attending, that allows for 325 students with an additional 180 seats available for low performing and near standard students, or as I explained, that phase 1, 2, 3 process. So any questions? I know that was a lot, but I wanted to give you the history of where we were with our enrollment, where we went with our estimates, and what our thinking was as we went through our phased enrollment process.
I have a question. Could you explain on the summer program a few slides back why in some cases you're putting 2 schools together and in one case you're putting 4 schools together?
Yes. So we looked for, when we did summer school ELOP, we looked at staffing and what we were able to provide for staffing. So when we were looking at these, we know we're going to have one site that will be our summer school site. It's not determined at this point. So wherever that summer school site is, we would allow those students to do ELOP at that site, regardless of what their home school was. We also would offer another site in another area. So looking at Cuesta, Altamont, similar, Bethany, Wickland, similar. At this point, because Cordis is where we had it last year, it worked very well with Cordis, and it's about halfway or centrally located between the other school sites. We chose to have those 4 school sites be together with our, at this point, guesstimate being it would be at Cordis again. But again, that's why I'm saying tentative, but that's why we looked at it with those numbers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions by the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item B, district enrollment report. Staff report.
Yes, our current enrollment is 7,846 students. Open enrollment opened last February 1st, which is a week ago, Monday, I believe. And we're far in exceeding our normal count at this point in time. So we have already enrolled 284, mostly TK and K students. When you look at the longitudinal impact of that data, that means that declining enrollment is nowhere on the horizon. But when you look at space in schools, in particular neighborhoods, when you look at staffing, finding teachers and a teacher shortage, the indications are that even though they didn't build a lot of homes in Mountain House or Lammersville Unified over the last 18 months, our enrollment continues to grow. There are about to be a large number of projects starting in the next 18 months in the south part of town. And if you drive up Byron Highway going north, you'll notice to the right, to the northwest or northeast, there's a significant number of infrastructures all the way down to the pipes that go to the house in the north part in neighborhood J. So what I can tell the board is at 7846, that's where we're at. But our projections of a rapid growth period are about to begin. And I would say by the mid-year this year, there'll be significant movement in J, and soon thereafter, College Park.
Thank you. Item C, district maintenance and operations report.
Thank you. Just a few items from tonight. We had some slight storm damage over the weekend. We had multiple trees down that were across the district, multiple roof leaks as well. Even had a stop sign that was blown over from the high winds. All those issues have been addressed or are being addressed at the moment. It's still continuing to rain a little bit, so we're working on those. The pool, unfortunately, is being difficult again. We need to replace an auto fill valve. The good news there is we can do it manually. We just have to keep checking it. Received a report this morning that one of the heaters is not working. Last checked about 3 o'clock this afternoon. The temperature is still 82 degrees on the water. It's still usable at the moment. The one heater is working. It's just working overtime. Staffing, our candidate for grounds and maintenance position did not work out. We have interviews scheduled tomorrow morning for that position. We have interviews for the warehouse scheduled again for Monday, the 12th. We have 2 night custodial vacancies that need to be filled, and we're expecting a custodial retirement coming up next month, so we're looking at filling that as well. Spring break is next month, at the end of the next month, so we're starting to plan for the cleaning on that week as well. And then the winter formal committee gave our custodial team at the high school a shout out for all the good job that was done by them for the event. So it's a pretty big event, but they handled it pretty well. So, questions?
The autofill, the problem was it that the autofill wasn't coming on, or that it was staying on and overfilling the pool?
It wasn't coming on, so we have to turn the water on, or to fill it up. But if we don't watch it, then it will overfill. So it's one of those things we just kind of have to time it right and just keep checking on it. So.
Thank you so much for your report. Moving on to item 10, action items. Item A, consider approval of 2023-2024 inter and intra-district transfer requests.
Go ahead.
Move to approve 2023-2024 inter and intra-district transfer requests.
Second.
Based on a motion by trustee Pombo and seconded by trustee Clements, student preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes with 4 ayes, no noes, and 1 absent. Item B, consider approval of 2024-2025 inter-district transfer requests.
Move to approve 2024-2025 inter-district transfer requests.
Second.
On a motion by trustee Clements and seconded by trustee Boulay, student trustee preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes with 4 ayes, no noes, and 1 absent. Moving on to item 11, information and discussion items. Item A, high school graduation and K-8 promotion dates. Staff report?
Yes, we wanted to post those up and give the board an opportunity to start to consider which of the ceremonies we want to go. However, okay, good. So we have 2 nights of I can see better without the glasses from far away. Okay, so obviously we always do high school graduation at 6 o'clock. It'll be on Thursday, May 23rd. We have a Tuesday and a Wednesday K-8 promotions. It's kind of a who wants to go where, divvy up, and we'll take the notes down for this. So does anyone have any preferences for the Tuesday or Wednesday or a particular site?
Would our student trustee like to attend any of them?
Yeah, I would love to attend them.
Do you have a school in mind that you'd like to attend either day?
I would definitely like to attend Altamont.
Altamont?
Okay, Altamont, Wednesday, 5:30, May 22nd. So
Would you like to attend one on Tuesday also?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Cordes, Costa, Lammersville, or Wickland?
That's a tough choice. I'll decide on it later.
Okay. Trustee Boulay, Pombo, Clements, do you have any preferences?
I have no preferences.
I'll take whatever's left over, but I'll go both days.
Yeah.
I'll go
attend
both days as well.
too. Do we want to get those days down so Dr. Nicholas can know?
well, we can, if no one has a preference, we can just do a random selection and let you guys know. Other than Devika, you're Altamont on Wednesday, the 22nd. So we've got that one down. And then we'll do a random selection.
And just to make sure that all trustees are going both days, correct? Okay.
Yeah, and if and Trustee Daniel may have a preference. So.
Right.
We'll reach
to
out.
her?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to item B. First reading of the 2024-2025 Lammersville Unified School District Wellness Plans. Staff report?
Yes, excuse me. Every year our wellness committee looks at the safety and policies related to safety at our school sites, and then we do a first read on the plan and then a finalization of the plan for board feedback and input. This is the first reading.
Any questions or comments by the board?
No other than to say thank you to the committee and district staff for putting it together.
Yep, I concur. Appreciate the time they take to thoroughly create a great plan and good policies. Moving on to item C, first reading of the 2024-2025 Lammersville Unified School District Safe Schools Plan and School Site Safety Plans. Staff report?
My grade point average was, we won't say, it got better as I got more mature. So as with the wellness plan, this is a committee of that we serve with the staff and the board and first responders and community members and staff members. This is the first read of the schools plan and the district safety plan.
Thank you. Any comments or questions by the board? None. Yeah, and again, just thank you to everyone who works so hard to get those plans.
Ditto.
Item D, DARE graduations. Staff report?
Yes. All we like to do is we like to continue to try to update the DARE graduations. I do want to remind the board they are subject to change, but these are the latest dates that we have at present, and we will let you know if something changes, and we wanted to inform you. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item E, LUSD mid-year local control and accountability report. Staff report?
Yeah, we have a short presentation from Assistant Superintendent Sharp, but before we do, I wanted to talk a little bit about the LCAP. LCAP is an acronym that stands for Local Control Accountability Plan. It came out in 2012 when the then Governor Brown changed the California State Schools funding mechanism to the local control funding formula, in which a complicated categorical-based program with lots of strings attached money were funneled out to school districts who had to try to figure out how to meet all the requirements. During Brown's tenure, he simplified it to a local control funding formula where 3 subcategories of folks. So there's every kid gets an amount of money, and then English learners, foster youth, and low-income students got additional funding. What was supposed to happen with the LCAP is it was supposed to be a simple plan that was associated with the local control funding formula so that you explained to your community the way you were spending money and the programs the way you were spending it. Unfortunately, over time, what happens with bureaucracies, especially one as large as the California state government, is that they start to add regulations and add input. And so the local control accountability plan is no longer that. It's really a auditing mechanism. It's a state expectation, follow guidance and tell us what you're doing following the guidance in an ever-evolving, constantly changing bureaucratic structure. And I bring that up only to say that we want to thank our staff who work on this, because what was supposed to be a simple explanation is no longer that. I will tell the board that at the county superintendent's meeting, I spoke with County Superintendent Schools, Dr. Troy Brown, and asked him in his advocacy with the state when he meets with them to start to also talk to the other county superintendents around the state to really start to address the lack of local control in the plan. It's really turning out to be a mandate structure. And so I wanted to say that because this is a new mandate, a mid-year update to the LCAP.
I would just like to add that local control was kind of a fallacy to begin with, and it's moved away from local control every year since. And as far as the complexity of the LCAP plan, CSBA has been fighting the state very hard to simplify the reporting requirements, and that's a difficult fight because the state likes more and more paperwork for some reason.
That is correct. And with that said, we'd like to introduce Assistant Superintendent Sharp, who is going to present our latest regulation in the Local Control Accountability Plan.
Good evening, President Olson, trustees, Dr. Nicholas. Thank you for having me. Yes, this is the first time we are needing to present a mid-year LCAP update. The background is here. Senate Bill 114 has a requirement for LEAs to present a report on the annual update to the LCAP, as well as the budget overview for parents. And the report must include all available mid-year outcome data related to metrics identified in the current LCAP, and all available mid-year expenditure and implementation data on all actions identified in the current LCAP. So the first thing has to do with the budget overview for parents. This is just simply as we adopted the budget overview for parents for total LCFF funds and the LCFF supplemental concentration grants. It was the same that we adopted in the budget overview for parents, as was the amount per budget act. So no change for us in either. Just to explain a little bit about this. So we have metrics that I'm going to speak about and actions. So there's going to be 3 options for our LCAP metrics. The outcome is unknown, which is over to the left. The outcome is in progress in the middle, and the outcome is known. So at this point in the school year, some metric outcomes are going to be unknown, some are going to be in progress, and some are going to be known. What I'm going to speak about and show you tonight are going to be metrics with mid-year data available. As I spoke about related to metrics and actions, this is our LCAP expenditures and implementation. So the same applies. At this point in the school year, some LCAP actions have not started, some are in progress, and some have been completed. You will have an update on LCAP actions that will be shared with the expenditures up to the first interim. So briefly going over our LCAP goals, the first one, systematic closure of the opportunity gaps, has to do with students graduating college and career ready with skills of communication, citizenship, critical thinking, collaboration, and creativity with district-wide one-to-one learning environment. So this is the metrics part. So let me break this down a little bit for you. Over on the left-hand side is the actual metric. That's the language that's relating to what we are actually tracking data-wise. The first column over from there, so the 2020-21 baseline, see that at the top? That's the initial metric we used when we started this LCAP. The next column over, desired outcome for 23-24. Back when we started the LCAP, that was our ending outcome when we looked 3 years out. So what you're looking at here, you can look at the 2023-2024 mid-year update. Those are our actual numbers right there. So that's the second column over from the right. So our map, as of winter map, ELA was 58% advanced and proficient, and math was 64% advanced or proficient. Status there is in progress because our actual measurement for map is our end of year map data, not winter. For the next one is attending school daily. You can see we're 96.64% doing well in our attendance. That also is in progress. And our chronic absenteeism on the bottom, 8.7%, and that also is in progress. All of those will be tracked at the end of the year. For next page is broad course of study. This is talking about our socioeconomically disadvantaged students who are enrolled in high school, and then the percentages enrolled in CTE classes, AP classes, and early college. And then down below, the percentage of our English learners who are enrolled in high school and how many are enrolled in CTE classes, AP classes, and early college. Again, that's also in progress. Our GPA, percent of high school students with a GPA of 3.0 or higher, you can see we're at 80.8%. That is at first semester, so that also is in progress. And our DNF grade, 21%. And then actions. I'm just going to let you look through here. This is looking at our budgeted expenditures for each of our actions, and then the estimated actuals, the first interim. All of our actions are partially implemented at this point. More actions. LCAP Goal 2, Instruction and Curriculum Efficacy. This is in regards to instructional leadership and teaching excellence in classrooms. And this long metric is simply stated walking and talking instruction, so without saying all the words. You can look over 23-24 mid-year update. We had, as we looked at standard measurable objectives in classrooms, 54% met and 24% exceeded. And as far as student engagement, we looked at 47% of our classrooms meeting expectations with 39% exceeding. And for suspensions, we had 1.5% mid-year and 0% expelled. And all of those metrics are also still in progress. Here you can see the actions as they relate to our budgeted expenditures and our estimated actuals. All of these are partially implemented. Last one is 21st century outcomes and stakeholder communication. So this is our high quality education, positive parent relationships, 21st century educational program with our rapidly expanding student population. There were no metrics to report on this at this point because this is through our surveys, so I did not have mid-year data for that. However, here are the actions with the budgeted expenditures and the estimated actuals. So as a summary, just to bring this back, we've had several presentations this year talking about our goals, good first-time instruction, our focus on the 20% and impact teams, and how those three come together really to correlate with our LCAP goals of systematic closure of the opportunity gaps, instruction and curriculum efficacy, and 21st century outcomes and stakeholder communication. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
Yeah, on the state standards, is it that the mid-year looked at the expected end-of-year state standards for exceed? So we're moving in that direction, which is why we're below the curve, because we've only gotten half the amount of time to get there.
Exactly.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm just saying that the mid-year update is of limited value at that point, but I know it's required.
And it's one metric,
Yeah.
right, at this point.
On the I lost my train of thought. I had something on the money, but I'll probably think of it later. I'll probably think of it as somebody else talks.
Any other board member have a question?
I just want to thank you for doing that presentation for us. I know it's an additional piece this year, so I appreciate the time you put into it, but it's a really nice synopsis of where we are at this point and where we're headed, and it looks like we're doing well, so thank you.
I do want to thank the team, Assistant Superintendent Grijalva, Executive Director Busatil, Sean Yohannan, Director of IT. They all were instrumental in putting the numbers together, so I just happened to be up here presenting them.
Yeah. Thanks.
We appreciate it, and it's very informative. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 12, calendar. Monday, February 12th, 2024 is a district holiday, President Lincoln's birthday. Item B, Wednesday, February 14th, 2024, Wellness Committee meeting at 3:45 p.m. in the Professional Development Center. Item C, Monday, February 19th, 2024 is another district holiday, President's Day. And item D, Wednesday, February 21st, 2024 is the next regular governing board meeting at 7 p.m. in the district office boardroom. In a moment, we will be adjourning to closed session to review the following items. Item A, Public Employee Discipline Dismissal Release Complaint, Government Code, Section 54957. Item B, Conference with Real Property Negotiators, Government Code, Section 54956.8. And item C, Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation, Significant Exposure to Litigation pursuant to Paragraph 2 of Subdivision D of Section 54956.9 of the Government Code, one case, letter from attorney Scott Rafferty attached. I will now entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
On a motion by trustee Pombo and seconded by trustee Clements, student trustee preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes with 4 ayes, no noes, and 1 absent. We are now adjourned to closed session at 8:40 PM.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.